Your brain is using the same war tactics that destroyed Napoleon's empire against your own bank account. The man who conquered Europe died broke on a remote island, not because he lacked strategy, but because he used his greatest weapons on the wrong enemy. And you're doing the exact same thing with your money right now. But one principle destroyed it all. Think about this. Napoleon controlled more wealth than any European before him. He made his generals millionaires. He looted the treasures of Egypt, Italy, and Prussia. Yet he died in exile, arguing about his unpaid grocery bills. How does that happen? Ready for the real reason he failed? I spent months studying Napoleon's personal letters, his financial records, the strategies that built and destroyed his empire. What I discovered changes everything about how we understand wealth psychology. Napoleon mastered 7 psychological tactics of war. 6 made him emperor. 1 he refused to use, and it cost him everything. Which one are you ignoring? Napoleon once wrote, "I can no longer obey. I have tasted command, and I cannot give it up." This wasn't arrogance. This was his brain revealing the most dangerous psychological trap about money. Once you taste power, your mind switches from conquest mode to empire mode. Conquest mode is hungry, strategic, patient. Empire mode is paranoid, impulsive, blind. Wealth is won in the mind before it's won in the market. Success automatically flips this switch in your brain. It's why lottery winners go broke, why family fortunes disappear in 2 generations. You've seen it everywhere. Crypto millionaires who lose it all overnight. Athletes bankrupt 5 years after retirement. Why Napoleon conquered Europe but couldn't conquer his own psychology. Ready to see the 7 tactics? First tactic, what Napoleon called the intelligence network. But he wasn't talking about spies. He meant information asymmetry, knowing what others don't. Before every battle, Napoleon spent 4 days gathering intelligence for every 1 day fighting. But look at your money habits. You work 40 hours a week earning it, maybe 40 minutes understanding it. You're fighting blind. Napoleon said, "War is 90% information. Wealth works the same way. Information is ammunition." The rich don't work harder. They know more. They know inflation is a hidden tax. They know savings accounts make you poorer. They know market psychology beats market timing. But here's what destroyed Napoleon. He knew the British were freezing his assets. He knew his wars were bankrupting France. He knew his empire was unsustainable. His ego wouldn't let him act on that information. Sound familiar? You know you should invest. You should budget. You should learn about money. But your psychological defense mechanisms turn knowledge into procrastination, just like that gym membership you never use. That course you bought but never finished. Napoleon conquered nations but couldn't conquer his own cognitive dissonance. Don't repeat his mistake. But the next tactic is even deadlier. Second tactic, speed of violence of action. Napoleon won by moving faster than enemies could react. But with money, speed kills. Listen to what Napoleon wrote in 1807. "I have made all my generals rich, but they have all become lazy." He discovered something crucial. Sudden wealth destroys the mind faster than sudden poverty. Think about it. Speed wins wars. Patience wins fortunes. When money comes quickly, your brain doesn't have time to adjust its baseline. It panics. It self-sabotages. It forces you back to your familiar financial state. Ever wonder why most inheritance is gone in 2 years? Why lottery winners declare bankruptcy? Why that friend who made quick money in crypto lost it even faster? This is why Napoleon gave soldiers small, consistent rewards instead of massive windfalls. He understood the psychology of gradual adaptation. But with himself, total failure. After each victory, he immediately pursued the next. No consolidation, no stabilization, just endless, exhausting forward motion. Warren Buffett made 1% of his wealth before 50. The rest came from patience, not speed. Napoleon tried conquering Europe in a decade. Which game are you playing? Third tactic. Divide and conquer. Napoleon never fought all enemies simultaneously. He isolated them, defeated them individually. Your financial problems work the same way. Master one front. Advance. Repeat. Right now, your brain sees everything at once. Debt, savings, investments, retirement. This cognitive overload triggers paralysis. You freeze, do nothing, stay poor. Napoleon would attack differently. First, identify your weakest financial enemy. Maybe a small credit card. Destroy it completely. Then advance to the next. Each victory releases dopamine, reprogramming your brain for financial confidence. Simple, right? But here's where Napoleon failed his own principle. By 1812, he was fighting everywhere. Russia, Spain, Germany, against Britain. His forces divided, his focus shattered. What about you? Are you day trading while learning real estate, while starting a business, while working full-time? Sound like anyone you know? That friend trying 5 side hustles at once? Remember all the NFT millionaires of 2021? Where are they now? If this is making sense, send this video to someone you know is fighting on too many financial fronts. Let's win this war together. Your mental resources are scattered across too many fronts. Pick one financial battle, win it completely, then advance. Napoleon forgot this. It killed his empire. If this is hitting home, subscribe now, because the next tactic is the one that separates the wealthy from everyone else. Fourth tactic. Napoleon's most devastating, the Grand Battery. He'd concentrate all his cannons on one point until it shattered, then pour everything through that gap. For wealth, this means psychological concentration. Focus is the new currency. The wealthy don't diversify attention. They obsess over one vehicle until mastery. But your brain resists this. It craves variety, novelty, distraction. Napoleon wrote, "The whole art of war consists of a well-reasoned defensive, followed by rapid and audacious attack. Replace war with wealth." You have the billionaire's playbook. They defend their time obsessively, say no to everything, then attack one opportunity with frightening focus. Think about it. Bezos with books, Gates with software, Buffett with value investing. One thing. Mastered completely. But you scatter energy across dozens of schemes, never concentrating enough power to break through anywhere. The tragic irony? Napoleon knew this. Then invaded Russia with 600,000 soldiers spread across a 1,000-mile front. Too dispersed to concentrate power anywhere. Only 100,000 returned. What are you spreading too thin? The answer might save your financial future. Fifth tactic, the central position. Napoleon positioned himself to strike anywhere, while enemies could only attack from one direction. In money, this means psychological flexibility. The wealthy see opportunities everywhere. The poor see only one way to make money, trading time for it. Control the center, control the game. But here's the dark truth. Stay in any position too long, your brain develops commitment bias. You become so attached, you can't abandon it. Even when it's killing you. Napoleon couldn't abandon being emperor, even when it bankrupted France. He'd rather lose everything than step down. Sound familiar? It's the same psychology keeping you at that soul-crushing job. In failing investments, in destructive financial habits, like that person still betting on crypto hoping for 2021 all over again. That business owner who won't pivot, even after COVID showed them the writing on the wall. Your cousin still trying to flip houses like it's 2019. If this is making sense, share it with someone who's stuck in empire mode. They need this more than you think. The central position is powerful, but only if you're willing to move. Napoleon forgot that. By 1814, surrounded, still clinging to his position while his empire crumbled. Your ego will do the same with your financial position, if you let it. Sixth tactic: living off the land. Napoleon's armies moved fast because they carried no supplies. They took what they needed from conquered territories. The wealthy do this with OPM, other people's money, bank loans, investor capital, customer prepayments. They build wealth using others' resources. Own nothing. Control everything. But this requires a psychological shift. Your brain screams for ownership. Your money, your account, your control. This hoarding instinct made sense 10,000 years ago. Today, it keeps you poor. The rich understand controlling money beats owning it. Every real estate empire, every tech startup, every fortune built on leverage, not savings. But Napoleon's psychology betrayed him here. He became addicted to living off conquered lands. When he invaded Russia, he assumed the same strategy would work. But Russians burned their own fields, destroyed their own cities. Napoleon's army starved. No backup plan. This is exactly what happens when you depend on one income source. Remember 2020. How many people discovered their stable job wasn't stable at all? One strategy, one way of thinking about money. Your psychological flexibility atrophies. One disruption and you're finished. What's your backup plan? Here comes the tactic that cost Napoleon everything. Now, the seventh tactic. The one Napoleon refused to use, the one that cost him everything. Retrograde Maneuver. The tactical retreat. Sometimes backing up is moving forward. Napoleon's ego couldn't accept retreat, even when strategic. In 1812, if he'd retreated from Russia in September instead of October, he'd have saved 400,000 soldiers. His empire. But his psychology wouldn't allow it. This is the same trap destroying your wealth. You can't admit when you're wrong. You hold losing stocks, stay in dead careers, throw good money after bad. Your ego can't accept the loss. We all know someone still holding their losses from the last crash, still in that dead-end job from 10 years ago, still trying to save that failing business. The wealthy have mastered something different. They can walk away from bad investments, failed businesses, wrong decisions, without their ego bleeding out. They retreat, regroup, attack elsewhere. Napoleon knew this intellectually. He wrote, "The greatest danger occurs at the moment of victory," but he couldn't apply it to himself. After each conquest, instead of consolidating, he immediately attacked the next. No strategic retreats, no pauses, just endless forward motion until everything collapsed. Which losing position are you refusing to abandon? Here's the disturbing truth about Napoleon and your money. The same tactics that built his empire also destroyed it, not because the tactics were wrong, but because he couldn't apply them to his own mind. You're fighting the same war right now, not against external enemies, against your own psychological programming. Your brain uses Napoleon's tactics against you, dividing attention, preventing retreats, forcing empire mode when you need conquest mode. The battlefield is between your ears. But you have one advantage Napoleon didn't have. You know the enemy is internal. You know your brain is the battlefield. You know wealth isn't about conquering markets. It's about conquering your own biases. The question is, will you learn from Napoleon's collapse or repeat it? Napoleon died with these words: France, army, head of the army, Josephine. Even at the end, thinking about conquest, not the psychological war he'd lost to himself. Don't die with regrets about wealth you could have built if you just conquered your own mind instead of chasing external victories. Which of Napoleon's tactics is your brain using against you? Are you spread thin like his Russian invasion, refusing to retreat from a losing position? In empire mode when you should be conquering? Be honest. Which Napoleon moment do you see in yourself? The speed addiction? The scattered focus? The refusal to retreat? Drop it in the comments. I'm personally responding to the first 100 because this conversation changes lives. What's the one financial battle you need to win next? Drop it below. I'll share my strategy for the best ones. Subscribe to master the psychological art of war against your own mental money traps, because the real battle for wealth isn't in the market. It's in your mind. Tomorrow, I'll show you how the Rothschild family used Napoleon's destruction to build history's greatest banking empire. They turned his biggest weakness into their greatest opportunity. Napoleon's empire fell because he couldn't win the battle within. But you? Your greatest victory is still ahead. If you conquer your mind first,